Let's talk about Keir Starmer. Let's talk about his judgment. One of his closest friends in politics, the diminutive former now Treasury Minister and also anti-corruption Minister Tulip Siddiq. She had to quit yesterday. I think the expression is she was resigned. She wasn't formally sacked, but you can tell she was told to go. So she quit. She's gone. This, of course, follows him losing his... This is just in 6 chaotic months, losing his useless Chief of Staff, Sue Gray, and his convicted fraudster Transport Secretary, Louise Haigh. Now, Isabel, you know, in 6 months, that's a lot of key players for him to lose. And these are just not any old appointments. These are very key appointments. And we have to seriously question his judgment, don't we, in this respect?
Well, I question his judgment pretty much every hour of every day in every respect. And it's one of the most surprising things I think about someone who's actually made it as far as the role of Prime Minister. You know, you normally have to have very good political judgment to get to that position. After all, it's not as if there isn't much competition to get to the top. But in this case, it kind of seems like Keir Starmer trading off his sort of reputation, and we can talk about in another time how deserved that was for being, you know, a director of public prosecutions, which sounds like a very serious and authoritative and grave and highfalutin job, which it is. He didn't do it very well, but it seems like he got where he did politically just about off the back of that. You know, he hasn't actually been an MP forever. It's quite a relatively short MP career in which he didn't really have to do anything. You know, he fell into line behind Corbyn, kept very quiet because secretly he didn't agree with what Corbyn's agenda was, although I have to say it's not really deviated that much from it.
No, exactly.
But he kept quiet all those years, remember? So that's a good chunk of his time as an MP. And then he just sort of rose almost organically by keeping really quiet while the Tories screwed everything up at the end of 13 years. So we didn't actually get to see much of the real Keir Starmer before he was pretty much foisted upon us by an exhausted, exasperated and hopeful electorate who naively believed that things couldn't get any worse. And how wrong they were.
Exactly. Now, Rupert Lowe, the redoubtable Reform UK MP for Great Yarmouth, who is a very successful businessman, so successful that he's got enough money to give all of his parliamentary salary to local charities and causes. Good for him. Now, he's a businessman, and he said that he stares across the chamber at the front bench of Labour, and he said he's seen it in business when directors, when bosses realise about themselves that they're not able to do this job, they're not up to it, and he says he sees fear in their eyes. Very interesting observation, I thought.
I think that's right. And, you know, it's something that I think Mel Stride yesterday from the Tory front bench observed, you know, looking over as he engaged in urgent questions on the dreadful state of the economy with the Chancellor, observed that none of the Labour lot have got any business experience. And that is a really worrying thing. No wonder we're in the sorry state we're in economically if none of them have ever had to run a business. But you might think even just running the household finances would teach them that the way they're going is only going to result in disaster. And it's really important, you know, if you're going to be at the top of politics, that you've actually had some real life experience. And unfortunately, Labour benches are stuffed full of ex-councillors and general, you know,
spads, former spads, aren't they? They're, you know, they used to be bag carriers for ministers. Now they're junior MPs, and they will rise up the ranks. Now, the really bad thing about all of Keir Starmer's mistakes in who he appoints to these top jobs is that he's going to be very reticent about getting rid of Rachel from accounts, because the Chancellor is obviously the most key appointment a Prime Minister makes, second most important person in the country, and to have to jettison your Chancellor of the Exchequer is a disastrous moment for any Prime Minister. So he probably will not do it. But you know, no matter how bad she is at her job. Now, this is what we're witnessing now. It's like an unfolding shambles. So you got Rachel Reeves the other day saying, oh, it's because she's got, they both got these kind of voices, haven't they? So
yeah, she's similar.
Yeah, she's saying, oh, I will only, there will only be one fiscal event in the year, one budget per year. There is no need for any more. Keir Starmer today in Parliament, will there be an emergency budget? Did he deny that? No, he didn't. Will there be a budget in March? Did he deny that? No, he didn't. In other words, she's saying no more budgets. Him, he's not saying there won't be any more budgets. I mean, you know, you get one story from one of them, another from another, and no clarity. And Keir Starmer knows he's got a real dud on his hands in the case of Rachel Reeves. And I think he also knows what the rest of us knows, that despite her denials, there will have to be some sort of emergency budget before too long.
Well, a Prime Minister and a Chancellor need to work in lockstep. And over all the time that I've been a political journalist, it's been unusual to reshuffle a Chancellor. I mean, there was a few cases in towards the end of the recent Tory years. We had Nadhim Zahawi, who didn't last very long because of some historic tax issue, I think, and there was a rather more speedy rotation, shall we say, because Boris Johnson was so much on the back foot and fighting for survival, and then obviously ousted. But when you look back at governments that have been strong and stable, dreadful phrase.
Oh my God.
The number 10 and the number 11 have worked effectively together, as they actually did for a long time during the Blair-Brown years. Even those two were secretly at loggerheads a lot of the time. It was a very functional relationship. In fairness to Cameron and Osborne, they worked incredibly well together. I don't remember really any fallouts between.
No, you're right. You're right.
So Starmer's not going to want to get rid of her. Absolutely no way is he going to want to get rid of her. But I think he's going to have to, certainly within the next year and a half, if not sooner.
And you said that, you know, more cabinet ministers should have real life experience. And let's be fair, you know, Rachel Reeves did work in the call centre at the Halifax Bank. So, you know, she knows what she's talking about. She was also, of course, an economist at the Bank of England. I met a guy who worked with her the other day. I'm not going to say what his assessment of her talents was, but he was not a fan, put it that way. Anyway, let's go to break now, and when we come back, we're going to be talking about another of these awful cabinet ministers, Bridget Phillipson, who I think, against stiff opposition, particularly from crazy Ed Miliband, is arguably the most dangerous person in the cabinet. She's a little class warrior, she really is.